And welcome everybody to the Jim Master Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. How's everybody doing today? It's so great to see all your smiley faces, and we welcome you. It is the post-hurricane time for us here. Hurricane Henri sort of came through and was here for about 3 days, and we are very lucky. We seem to be in a pocket here where it came through. It was blowing in the wind and raindrops keep falling on your head, but relatively unscathed. So, because again, remember over the weekend, if you were with us live, we do our shows live here on the Jim Master Show Live. We weren't sure if we were going to possibly be here Monday if the power and the Wi-Fi went out. There was, talk that the power and the Wi-Fi throughout the region here in the Northeast and the New York and New England area was about to be out for a couple of days too, up to 10 days. But, blessings be what they are and luck of the Irish, I guess. It didn't happen for us. There are areas where power is out and flooding happens. You probably saw it on television in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. But where we are here, we're very, very lucky considering we're not far from the actual Long Island Sound and the ocean. So we are blessed here, and it's always a blessing to see all of you. This is our Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series that we started 460 episodes ago. That's right. This is episode 460, which I still can't believe we've done that many shows live, just about 7 days a week, with guests from Broadway and Hollywood, television, film, science and nature, health and wellness, culinary arts, as well as television and music, theater and comedy and sports and you name it. It's really amazing. We always have a good time here. Again, my style is warm and conversational, freestyle. We bring you guys in from around the world. For those of you watching, our viewers call themselves the Lovities. That's right. They're part of our Lovity squad. They love the show that much, the vibe, the feel, bringing back the lost art of conversation with a modern twist. They happen to call me Mr. Lovity, and they call this Lovity Hall. So I think that's a cool thing, especially with all the things that have been going on in the world and all the craziness and all the things that have not necessarily been so happy and positive. It's cool to have some levity spread around the world. We could really use more of that. We've got an incredible guest joining us as well, author and professor emeritus with George Washington University, William Halal, who wants me to call him Bill, is joining us. And he's got an incredible new book out we're going to talk about in just a second. But first, it's a pleasure to have all of you here. And welcome to the Jim Master Show Live. We welcome you, of course. We say hello to all the Lovities watching around the world. Of course, Bill is with us again, prolific author and professor emeritus with George Washington University, Washington, D.C. It's an honor to have him here. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. We would love that. That's the channel you're watching right now. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our live episodes of JMS and our surprise pop-up shows too. So you see that little bell icon, click on it. That way there, you'll be notified every time we have amazing guests. We have pop-up shows, on-location shows, and lots of themed episodes too, like holiday specials and lots more. Also, while you're there on our YouTube channel, give this episode and all the episodes you've enjoyed a healthy, lovely thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that. And also leave a comment on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, if you're enjoying this episode. That helps us big time as well. The reason why is YouTube sees that, and they take this episode and all the ones you enjoy, and then they beam them out to the rest of humanity. I mean, we're reaching an international audience right now, but when YouTube sees it, they push it out even further. So tell the world about the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series. Enjoy the Lovity. Also enjoy that new feature we have during live chat, which is super chat, super emojis, super stickers, super thanks. It's our way of thanking you, and you are pretty much telling us how much you really enjoy this series as often as it is here for you to really inspire, inform, educate, entertain, and have a good time. We have a lot of laughs on the show as well. Your comment will be highlighted in special colors. And of course, Jim, yours truly, will personally thank you live on air for your super emoji, super chat, super sticker, super thanks, comment. Let's check in with some of our viewers around the world who are called the Lovities. Good evening, Mr. Lovity, and good evening, Lovities from Linda, watching in Florida. Good to see you, Linda Odell, and Mary Bishop's also in Florida. She says, hello, Jim and Lovity friends. Nice to see Mary here as well. Our guest is also from the Washington, D.C. area. Cynthia Catherine Howard is watching in our nation's capital. She's watching in Washington, D.C. Good evening, Jim, and all the dear Lovities. Good to see you as well. Thanks very much for being here, Cynthia. We know you love this broadcast. And a Freudian slip. God evening, everyone. Happy Monday. Good evening as well. Both work. And pleasure to see you, Sherry Larson, who is watching in Kansas, USA, and we love it. Hope you and your family are safe from Hurricane Tropical Storm Henri. Yes, we are all doing beautifully. We are everybody's good here. The property, the houses. We're lucky. We're in this little pocket here where, the storm just passed us over. I mean, we got wind and rain. And we even posted some video on our Instagram page at Jim Masters TV and our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, in the Masters Mantra section, that series on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and also on our Facebook page as well. So, it was raining all day today, and you could still see the storm clouds hanging over, but it's clearing out. But as far as, the craziness of it, we were very lucky because I've been in a hurricane or two over the years, and you don't really want to be in those. Hi, Jim, and all my lovely friends. To Merlin watching in Ontario, Canada. Good evening from Sherry in Kansas. Good to see you as well. Welcome, Merlin. Welcome, Sherry. Nice, nice, nice. And everybody says hello to everybody. I love that too. Dawn, thank you. We are okay. We made it through the storm, made it through the rain and the wind. Glad you came out of the storm okay. We sure did. And thank you, Cynthia, as well. So glad you and your family are all doing well from that massive Hurricane Henri. By the time it got through half of this region, it turned into a tropical storm. And now I think it's a tropical depression that's gone past Massachusetts, up through New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and it's headed to Canada. I believe Halifax, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, they're going to get some of it as well. Ann Wozniak is here. Hello to Jim and Lovely family. Good to see you as well. Ann, nice when you're here. We love it. And everybody else chiming in here. Good Monday evening, everyone. Maureen is watching from Arizona. So glad you're safe from the storm. Prayers have been answered. I think you're right. Also safe from the storm is Kathleen in New York, where the storm came through as well. Hi, Jim. Looking good. Glad we got through the storm together. We sure did, Kathleen. Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Merlin says new glasses. Looking great. Thank you, Merlin. I appreciate that very, very much. Very, very nice comments coming in here from everybody. Linda's saying, looking mighty handsome, Mr. Levity. Love the glasses. Thank you very much. How do we print these comments out and then press them onto highway billboards? I would love that. Let's plan for that. I don't think we can print these comments out. Hearts from Linda and love and hugs. Yes, we're praying for your daughter, Linda, and for you. As well, for your health and for your daughter's health with some of those recent events. Thank you very much, Cynthia Catherine Howard in Washington, D.C. She did the super chat. That's a beautiful thing to do. That really helps support our series and all these episodes that we present to you. Thank you, Jim. We love you and all the Lovities. Catherine Cynthia Howard doing super chat, special colors, special effect, and comment rising to the top. And I personally thank you very much, Cynthia, for doing that. That means a great, great deal. Very beautiful for you to do that as well. That's the super chat feature. Happens right now during the live chat. Greetings, Jim and lovely friends. Glad to hear you were all safe from the storm, hurricane. Welcome, author and professor William Halal, to the show tonight. Yep, he's waiting in the wings. And Jen Barry's in-house from Allentown, Pennsylvania. She made it through, too, because, the storm was so wide. It did do some flooding and things of that nature in Pennsylvania, where she is. So hopefully you made it through as well there in Pennsylvania. Good stuff. Also, somebody else that sailed through the hurricane and the tropical storm, Rainy Katz did in New York City. Good evening, Jim and Lovities. Happy post-hurricane. That's right. We're all here reporting for duty, so that's a good sign. Everybody's in good shape. You got the flooding, but you're all okay. Yeah, you're in the mountains there, and you get some rough flooding there in Pennsylvania, but I'm glad you're okay. Alessandra is here from North Carolina, and she says hello as well. Glad you're doing okay, Alessandra. Hope everybody else is doing okay. And thanks for all the comments. Thanks for all the love. And again, Cynthia with the super chat. Being an entertainment lifestyle talk show series, I always like to greet the viewers when I can, slip it in a little bit here. And then we welcome our fantastic guest, who is William Halal. He's joining us here again. We're very excited to have him here. He's amazing. William E. Halal, PhD, is an authority on emerging technology, strategic planning, knowledge, and innovation. With degrees from Purdue and UC Berkeley, he has published 7 books and hundreds of articles and consults to corporations and governments as well. And again, it really is a pleasure to have him here on the Jim Masters Show Live. We've got a fascinating conversation. We'll be talking about his new book, Beyond Knowledge, How Technology is Driving an Age of Consciousness. As I mentioned, he's published 7 books and hundreds of articles and consults to corporations and governments, including General Motors, AT&T, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the U.S. DoD, and the Asian Development Bank. He's a frequent speaker as well, once substituting for Peter Drucker at the LA Coliseum. Now, his book, which we're going to be talking about as well, really is amazing. Bill is a man of immense experience. He served as a major in the U.S. Air Force, an aerospace engineer on Apollo's lunar module. That's right. He's also now a professor emeritus at George Washington University, Washington, D.C. His new book just came out this summer. It is literally hot off the presses, and we're very excited to talk about that and so much more. Here is that book, Beyond Knowledge, How Technology is Driving an Age of Consciousness. It's really riveting too. The age of knowledge has dominated the last 2 decades. It's receding under today's flood of smartphones, social media, and artificial intelligence. Knowledge is still crucial, but the tech revolution is driving the world beyond knowledge into a frontier governed by emotions, values, beliefs, and higher order thought. An age of consciousness is here, though one may not like its current form. Whatever one thinks of, the previous president or anybody else, all would concede that he is brilliant at creating an alternative reality, a master of shaping consciousness, according to Bill Halal, who is our very special guest. We're very happy to have him here. We've got a riveting conversation here for you. So let's welcome him live and direct from the DC area. Beyond Knowledge author, Bill Halal. Welcome to the show, Bill. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here.
So how are you doing? You didn't have any of the hurricane come your way, right?
We missed all that. We missed that.
You missed all of that.
We sent it in your direction, but we missed you too.
Yes, you did. I'm sure you did. Well, I'm so glad to have you here with us tonight, and it's a pleasure to have you here, Bill. How are you doing? Obviously, we've been dealing with some very unusual times and pandemic, civil unrest, the economy, the political craziness, all of it. How have you been doing, and how have you stayed creative, connected, collaborative, and, as I ask all the guests, sane during it all? And that's usually where they say, Jim, I'll get back to you on the sane part. I'm still working on that.
Well, actually, all of the events that have been taking place play right into the theme of my book, Beyond Knowledge. The pandemic, for instance, has made it clear, I think, to everybody that the present global order is not sustainable. It's just too fragile. And I think there's a widespread understanding that we need a different mindset, a different way to think about the world. So that's what I would call a change in consciousness. And I think that's likely to happen in this decade out of sheer necessity to survive, to get through these crises, climate change, more pandemics. We're going to have more pandemics, cyber attacks. It just goes on and on. It's what I would call a crisis of maturity. The world has to grow up, accept responsibility for its behavior, and take corrective action to solve these threats, or we're not going to have a functioning civilization. That's really the heart of it, I think.
What do you think is happening? What is causing all of this to be in this state we're in this flux situation? I mean, obviously, um, this situation we've experienced in the last 17, 18 months has been a time of great reflection and given us time to pause. And in many respects, be able to look at ways to move forward, or at least seize these opportunities, this pause that we've had,
Yeah,
to seize opportunities to obviously be collaborative, to work together, to be unified,
exactly.
to try to move forward with kindness and empathy, and to do it in a way that benefits everybody and the good of society. What are some of those things you think we need to do, and where have we been going wrong that took us to this point that we've been at?
Well, I think you touched on it. The technology is driving us into this new era. If I can just make the point, the smartphone, for instance, has given everybody the access to all the knowledge in the world at the touch of a finger. So there's no shortage of knowledge. And social media has allowed people to express themselves in ways they never could before, in personal ways. And that's given rise to all of this mad behavior, you might call it, the post-factual mess. I like to think of it as post-factual. Uh, People are moving beyond knowledge. They're not encumbered by knowledge, and they're concerned with their beliefs, their values. They're expressing them. And that's why we see all of this strange behavior. And think of the role of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence promises to eliminate about half of all jobs, all knowledge work. And so that raises this profound question: what lies beyond knowledge? That's what technologists and managers are wondering about. What do we do when AI eliminates all this knowledge work? Well, by definition, everything beyond knowledge is consciousness, higher order values, beliefs, that kind of thing. And so those are the forces that are driving us into this new era. It's a frontier. It's a new frontier. I don't think we understand it very well, but I've been doing my best to figure it out, and that's what I'm here to tell you about.
So, from your perspective, obviously, because you've had such a wonderful, vast wealth of experience in all of the different things that you've done in your life and your career as well, Professor. Are you excited about the technology, or did you embrace it right away? Did it take time? Is it serving us well, or are we depending on it too much? How do from a human perspective, how do you feel about some of it yourself personally?
Well, a CEO put it very well a few years ago. Technology always wins in the end. I think that's true. You can't argue with the technology. It's here. It's changing the world, and it's going to. We just have to understand it and try and guide it to serve our purposes. But the main thing that I think we should focus on is what I mentioned a minute ago: the crisis of maturity. I think we should see this as a growing up period for the planet. We can't afford to continue doing what we've been doing for the last millennia. Uh, we have to think very differently. We have to have a different mindset, what I call a global consciousness. We have to think of the world as a whole, starting with the planet. The life on this planet is so unique that we can't find life anywhere else in the universe. We've looked for 50 years, no sign of life, intelligent life, which illustrates how unique and precious this planet is. And so we have to accord it that respect and treat the planet as a sacred thing. All the life forms have to be treated as sacred. Doesn't mean we can't use the environment, but we have to do it with respect. So that's the first thing that I think has to be done. That would be a lot of it right there, if we could treat the planet as a sacred object.
Mm. Norman Lear, the famous American television producer, working in television myself, knowing that name quite well, says we just must be the most informed yet least self-aware people in history.
Yeah,
Tell
you
us
got,
about that.
you got that out of my the synopsis to my book.
Yes.
That's right. I respect Lear very much. He's a brilliant guy. I think he's right.
Yes.
The Americans have had the privilege of living in a very rich country. We haven't had to face these problems before, but we do now. We do now, and it's a real challenge. But I think we can. I think we can make it if we can rethink the principles that would govern the world. The one thing that I really focus on these days is the role of the corporation. What's happening is absolutely amazing. About 40 years ago, I won a big prize for a paper called Beyond the Profit Motive. It was way ahead of its time, and I despaired of anything coming of that. But in the last 2 years, it's here now. Your listeners probably know of the Business Roundtable announcement that came out 2 years ago, and it disavowed the principle of shareholder supremacy. In effect, it said that all stakeholders have equal rights in modern business: employees, customers, the public, and so forth. That is a remarkable change, and it's changing the way business works right now. The potential, if we can realize this, is that we could create an economic system that not only makes money and economic gain, but that solves social problems as well, that considers all of these externalities, the environment, employee welfare, all of those things as integral parts of business success. And if we do it properly, we could probably make more money as well. That's the potential for the transformation of the corporation into a higher form of consciousness. So this illustrates what I mean by global consciousness, a different mindset.
It's really about social evolution in so many different ways. Is it something that is easier said than done? And do you see people out there who are ready and willing and able to roll up their sleeves and participate and make change, positive change happen? Do you see that undercurrent of energy?
Well, I think it's there. And I think that's true, Jim. There is a lot of receptivity. A lot of people are thinking about what is the new system, the new model of society. That's true. But I don't think we should downplay the challenge. It's enormous. That's why I call it a crisis of maturity, crisis of global maturity. It's going to be hard. It's probably going to get a lot worse before we turn it around. We're just seeing the beginnings of the severity of the climate problem. And the climate problem is going to get worse before it gets better. So we shouldn't fool ourselves. This is just the beginning. The planet is such a huge device, such a huge object, that it takes decades to change its behavior. So we're going to see more climate disasters in the next few years. But if we can rise to the occasion, I think we could turn this around and create a different world, a world. I like the way you talked about it, cooperation. I think that's exactly the key here. Cooperation is probably the most underutilized practice around today. If we could learn to cooperate and collaborate to solve problems, common problems, there's no limit to what humans can do.
That's exactly right. I've said that, and we say it actually a lot on this show, and I say it off the air as well. The word collaboration is very, very important. You also mentioned too, which I think is quite fascinating, and pulling a little bit more from this incredible book. You asked this question of what is going on here specific to the United States. Why is the U.S. the most prosperous and best educated nation in the world? And why is it so inept? How can great knowledge produce such misguided behavior?
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's just a natural outcome of the passing of the knowledge age, which we talked about a minute ago, and the onset of an age of consciousness. These are different forms of consciousness that we're seeing. The anti-vaxxers, the climate deniers, the big lie, all that stuff. These are people are just doing the natural thing. They're expressing their doubts, their beliefs, their hopes, whatever, their fears. And it takes a variety of bizarre forms, that's true. But it's all consciousness. We're all struggling to figure things out. What we need to do is to shape a consciousness that we all can buy into, something that we can, that will unite left and right, so to speak. And I think we can do that, using the principles of collaboration. I really think that's where the great opportunities lie, in synthesizing left and right, the left wing and the right wing. I hate to see Democrats and Republicans arguing so ferociously. It accomplishes nothing.
I agree, 100%.
Terrible way to do policy, just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm a Libra, so I'm all about balance and harmony anyway. So we're having a tough time with all the craziness going on in the world these days. So for you, what was the initial source of inspiration for writing this book? Why now? How long did it take? And why did you feel a book like this was needed now? I mean, congratulations on it too. I know writing a book and really putting the thought and the time into it in the way that you did is something that can be very heady, very emotional, and very intensive. So congratulations on investing all of those energies and elements of yourself into it. But why now? And what were those sources of inspiration, maybe from your own life's journey, that were inside you bubbling to come up out, to share with all of us, so we can read this and really soak in what it is you're trying to say?
Well, I have been forecasting the technology revolution for about 20 years. That's been my main academic interest. But about 10 years ago, I began to see that the technology is just the most simple part of all of this. It's the social reaction to the technology that is going to be difficult. And when we saw the entrenchment of opposition to dealing with climate change and the Trump presidency and all of the post-factual stuff, that made it clear that something else was going on here. And it just became so obvious to me that we were struggling with consciousness. It wasn't knowledge, nothing. It's got nothing to do with knowledge or logic or anything like that. And that made it clear to me we were entering this age of consciousness. And that's when I started taking it seriously, and I started writing a book. And those developments brought the book about. I can make one point here that I think is important. If you look at this from the point of social evolution, what I think we have to accept is the likelihood that we are going to see what I'm going to call a mental spiritual revolution within this decade, really.
Yeah.
It could be longer, but I think it's likely within this decade, because civilization has always been propelled forward by various revolutions. The agrarian revolution that introduced agriculture 10,000 years ago, the industrial revolution, and recently the digital revolution, the information revolution. So every new stage in development is introduced and propelled forward by a revolution in thought, in technology. And now it's the mental spiritual revolution, because that's what's needed. A revolution in thought. The present ideas are not going to get us there. We need what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Global consciousness.
So give us an idea. You know, we lead busy lives, and we have so many things that we have to tend to now more than ever. What are some of those things you feel, and you've outlined a few of them so far, that need to change? What is this way of thinking that needs to really be changed, tweaked, so we can move in this direction you're talking about for the good of the planet and for the good of all of us?
Yeah, well, it's let me say a little more about what I call global consciousness. My company has studied this pretty extensively. We convened 20 or 30 experts and had a dialogue, and we sorted out the meaning of everything they suggest. And it boils down to about 5 key principles that capture it all. I mentioned the first one: treat the planet and its life forms as sacred. I think that's a good beginning. The second one is govern the world as a unified whole. And that means that it's time to stop thinking that every nation and every large corporation is an independent entity. It is, but it also exists in a larger economic and social system, the planet. And the planet is unifying. The information systems are unified. The economic systems, the market systems are unified. So the planet is unifying, and we have to accept that and start working together as a unified whole. That doesn't mean a world government. It just means that corporations and nations collaborate when it's in their self-interest. Like on the pandemic. The pandemic made it clear that if you want to snuff this bug out, the world has to work together, because it's a global problem. So that's really the second principle. The third is what we talked about, transforming institutions like the corporation and governments and other big institutions. Those are some of the key principles, I think.
It sounds a lot like there's this thread of we're all in this together. We have to, every time, at the minute we wake up and we step outside, instead of thinking I and me, we need to be thinking in all aspects more about we. Now, it's funny because I've always been told, I say we all the time, even when it's something that is I, like something that I've earned, something that I've created, something that I've been awarded. Take that I and enjoy the I. But I'm always looking for the we. I'm always looking for the team and the others and bringing people in as a unifier, as somebody who's a communicator and somebody who's communal. It's, second nature for me to always think us and we. There are times where people, again, have said, Jim, well, that actually was an I moment and you deserve it and you got to soak up the I. But I think thinking we really is crucial in so many ways. And there is this thread of what you're talking about, where the minute we step out, we should think about we, because we've seen just in recent months what it can be like when it's I, me. And the planet doesn't spin well on its axis when it's operating in that fashion, right?
Absolutely. I think the younger generation, I think, has these values already. As a college professor, I see a lot of students, and they're a different breed of person, I think. They don't see gender differences. They just accept that. They don't see racial differences. In fact, they value people who are really different. They welcome people from all parts of the world. So I think the younger generation intuitively has this global perspective, and they're the people that are going to have to implement this. But the older generation has to let them do it and help them. And we don't have much time, I don't think. I think we have a decade or two.
That's a big statement. Yeah, a decade or two is right. And they were saying the same thing. Weren't they saying that recently about climate change and what they discovered recently happening in the Atlantic Ocean and the warming and Greenland melting faster than we thought and all of that just about 2-3 weeks ago, after years of study, and that what is supposed to be many, 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 many years from now is actually more than likely coming our way in a matter of just decades. That's amazing stuff, isn't it?
It is. It's frightening. Science has been shocked to realize that it's happening faster than they anticipated.
Yes.
The models that they were working on are too conservative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that it's getting hot, people are starting to use air conditioners, which really makes the problem worse, because that uses more energy, contributes to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So it's a positive feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the problem worse. And the tundra is starting to melt in the northern hemispheres in Russia. And the tundra has been storing huge amounts of methane. Methane is about 20 or 30 times more potent than CO2. So there are a lot of very worrisome trends. And that's just climate, but it's really everything. It's the pandemics, it's the cyber attacks. We did a study a couple of years ago, identified about 20 or so trends that are driving this crisis. So it's really
what are a few of them? That's fascinating.
well, I mentioned a few. It's
Yeah.
mass unemployment is a threat. We talked about that a minute ago. AI is going to eliminate jobs, and people are talking now, industry people, about the imminent replacement of truck drivers.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Well, there are about 3 million truck drivers in the country. And so there's 3 million unemployed people right there. So it really could be anywhere. So mass unemployment is a big threat. The inequality in our society is just, it can't be sustained. It's not healthy for a society. It hurts economic growth, in fact.
Mm.
The bottom rung of society doesn't have the wherewithal to spend. So the inequality problem is severe. It has to be alleviated. And those are just some of the problems. There are innumerable threats.
I want to check something for a minute. Ow, that actually hurt. So now I know that I'm actually sitting here and you're not watching an avatar. Because one day you might even tune into the Jim Master Show live and it's an avatar of me talking to you and not really me. I hope that is decades and decades off because I still want to do this kind of work.
Yeah, I love the way you started out by saying hello to all your guests.
That's, I'm very much that way. I'm, again, like I said, it's all we, and the Lovities, they're commenting left and right. I know they're going to be running out to get your book. Alessandra in North Carolina says, we need to stop being so selfish and think of others and take care of our planet. The planet was a gift to us. We're destroying it. We need to fix our ways and correct what we have been doing.
Alessandra, she's exactly right.
Well, Renee Katz in New York City, Lovities, which is what the viewers are, the Lovities, the Lovity Squad. Lovities, speak your language. We respect one another and our experience is sacred, and how the earth we all live in is so precious. We support beauty in everyone and to promote that awareness. I agree.
Go, Renee.
Yeah. Right. It's so true. And Cynthia Catherine Howard, I feel this is the key to our globalization problems we're facing. Professor Halal, that's so true. The key is getting everybody on the same, if not close to or similar page. That can seem like a daunting task now more than ever. Without going too deeply in it, but just I look at everything from a human condition sort of way, not even necessarily always specifically getting into the label or to the who's standing on this side of the room, who's standing on that side, or just the way we've been treating each other.
Exactly.
The things we've been saying, the things we've been doing, the violence, the vitriol, the hatred, the pushing and shoving and yelling and now because there are abilities as a result of technology where people can go on and say anything they want to say, with not back anything up, just say it in a way that can really be hurtful to people, can really, destroy them in ways, that they would never have imagined, and anonymously. And that's something new in recent years. How do you feel about social media?
Yeah, good point.
It's definitely a big psychological and marketing experiment.
Social media is a powerful new technology. It's changed the world. It's giving us the opportunity to interact as a global community. We all talk to one another, and that's where the problem comes in. There are a few things that I think have to be done to tame this beast. The first thing to do is to control the disinformation. We're doing a little study on that right now in my company, TechCast, and we're identifying the requirements to get disinformation under control. And it's going to be things like some federal regulation of media companies, companies regulating themselves, teaching children when they're young how to discriminate information so they know what to believe and what is not worth believing, and so on. There are a lot of things that we're going to have to do to get disinformation under control. And then I think we also have to start engaging with one another with respect. We have to listen to one another. This shouting at one another is just terrible. The way politics takes place today, where it's a war and the opponent is an enemy.
Yeah,
horrible. We can't do that. You can't run a society that way. So we have to start engaging one another in ways that are respectful and listening to what other people really think. I think those are some of the things that I think have to be done.
yeah.
And vision. We have to have compelling visions of a world that's going to work. Right now, I don't think there's a vision out there. I don't think many nations have done a good job of figuring out what all this means and where we should be going. We need to have strategists and executives and futurists thinking about this and proposing a scenario for a reasonable, feasible, workable vision of where the world is going, so that we have some hope for all of this and some guidance. Those are some of the things that I think have to be done.
You have something that you've broken out, which I find fascinating, the life cycle of evolution.
Yeah.
And various steps and charts that show us that. Tell us a little bit about that. I think the viewers would find that very, very thought-provoking and riveting.
That's really the academic heart of this perspective. And your viewers could go to beyondknowledge.org, and they will see a synopsis of the book, and that graph is there, the life cycle of evolution. I think there's nothing like it. It took me 20 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
It plots. It's an accurate plot of the evolution of civilization on the planet, starting with hunter-gatherers, agrarian society, industrial society, service economy, knowledge age, and then this implies, of course, that logically that the next step is an age of consciousness. And we are starting to enter that frontier now. I think it's not the kind of consciousness we want. It's a lot of craziness going on, but it is an age of consciousness, and so we have the challenge of figuring out what we want to think, how we're going to approach all of this, like a child. When anybody who's raised a teenager knows that they're lost when they're teens. They're physically fully grown, but they have no idea what they're doing. That's roughly where we are as a society. That's where Norman Lear's quote comes in. We're about the stage of a teenager as a society. We don't know what we're doing. We have to stop and think about what we want as a society and set our minds to accomplish it. And I think we will. I'm very hopeful, but it's going to be very hard. And the next decade or so, I think, are going to be very critical.
Are we, what I'm finding too, that is a very positive thing. Two things that really stand out. I've interviewed many, many people, probably thousands, who have talked about things like leadership and the definition of a leader. And that has been morphing and changing for the positive in many different ways. It used to be that leader was somebody who was the boss up in the ivory tower, sort of looking down, not really knowing the names necessarily of the front lines and other parts of the company. And that is changing, and people are wanting that change, where I think there is this undercurrent of people realizing effective leaders at every level, whether it's governmental, or whether it's corporate, whether it's just even within, a club, whatever it may be, realizing that kindness and empathy, allowing people to share and speak, listening so they know they're heard and they're respected and appreciated,
Exactly.
and rolling up the sleeves and being amongst everybody is an effective and efficient and more productive way because to get things done, because which then results in the profitability and all the other things that people are looking for, but in a way where the individuals feel valued and respected and heard and appreciated and cared for. So when they get in the car, or however they do it now, even if they're working from home, they feel invested, they feel heard, and they want to produce more. They want to feel like they're a part of a link in this, wheel that's moving forward for the good of everybody. So this definition is changing in a way where, again, some of the most effective leaders, I think, are realizing there is a human side to it all as much as there is the dollar. And that it's very, very important to show empathy and kindness. And I think that's a great thing.
No, you're exactly right. I think that's exactly true. We need more leaders like that. And I think young people intuitively do that. I think they are the hope for society, really. That's always been the case. And it's pretty clear now, I think. People in their 20s.
Yeah.
People, yeah.
Are they misrepresented? Are they mischaracterized? Are they being, our older generations looking at them saying some of the things that you hear people saying that are like because they want to change things, because they want to bring it into a different direction. Sometimes there's resistance. They don't know what they're talking about. I think every generation says that about the earlier generation, but specifically now you hear a lot of that, where people will say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. You can't relate. They don't communicate. There's like this sort of thing. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think young people are more intelligent than ever, no question about that, but they're different. They're misunderstood. They have strange ideas sometimes. Like many of them don't want to drive a car. They don't even want to own a car. They're just kind of strange.
Or a house, yeah. Cities, moving back to cities, yeah.
It's really amazing how people are changing, and that makes perfect sense because cars are being automated. We're going to have self-driving cars are just around the corner, and the car is going to become a commodity, really, that you just call up for a car, and it shows up and takes you where you want to go. So a car is not going to serve the purpose it did in the past, where it was kind of like the equivalent of your horse, a personal friend. I don't think that's going to be the case. So young people are different. They don't want to own things, I don't think, the way older people do. And they're misunderstood, I think. I hear a lot of older people say their kids act like they're ignorant. Well, there is such a thing as willful ignorance. Some people choose to avoid the truth. But I think it's just a question of having different values. They just think differently. And I think we don't understand the young generation. I try to stay close to my students.
That's a great thing. Tell us about that and your work with George Washington University, which, again, I know is something that is very near and dear to your heart. Tell us about some of that work.
Well, I'm in a business school, so we deal with young managers and engineers, people like that. And I'm impressed with the young breed of business leaders. I think they're very clever, very creative. They're very creative. Many of them want to go on their own, start their own business, which is, I think, a healthy thing. In fact, there's going to be more opportunity for that because big corporations can no longer be run as hierarchies. They have to be run as a collection of small internal enterprises where each unit is an independent enterprise, and the people who run it are held accountable for its performance and rewarded for their success and left free to do it pretty much as they choose, as long as they perform. So there are more opportunities for entrepreneurs inside of organizations as well as starting their own businesses. So I'm impressed with young people. I think they're very creative, and I think they're going to do a good job, I think, in years to come. But they can't do it alone. I think the older generation has to help. We all have to change our thinking. But I'm convinced that it's going to happen. I just want to go back to my earlier point about a mental spiritual revolution is, I think, coming in this decade or two, because there's no alternative. It's that simple. There's no alternative. We have to change the way we think, or we're not going to survive as a civilization. That's the way it's always been in evolution. The agrarian revolution, the industrial revolution, the digital revolution, and now the mental spiritual revolution. I don't think we should be afraid of that. We could think of it as global ethics, or a collective epiphany, or a new mindset. There are lots of ways we could think about it, but we have to have a different mentality, because that's where it all starts. If we can imagine something, then we can do it. But we have to start by imagining it, have a vision, a working vision of the kind of world that is sustainable, a world that works.
Do you find this through your research? I mean, I know some have said this. They're talking about things like, of course, the disappearance of the middle class, and widening between the rich and the poor happening, and widening, inequality and inequities. Are we really headed in that direction at a lot faster pace? And is there a way, from your perspective and your research, that we can somehow find a way to link it back again?
Well, if the trends that I discussed earlier about the transformation of the corporation, if those trends hold, if Americans and other countries can develop those ideas to their potential, I think then we'd have a very different economic system. I don't think it would place as much emphasis on money that we have now. There will always be wealthy people. There's no question about that. Some of that is essential to drive an economic system as an incentive, of course. But the way it works now, where we have multi-billionaires and where people aspire to become billionaires, I think that may diminish, because it doesn't serve much purpose. After your first couple of $1 million, there's no point to that.
It's like, yeah.
And I can see that diminishing, and I can see business executives becoming stewards of their corporations, where they lead the various stakeholder groups as a collective whole, as a community. The employees and the customers, the local government units, and their shareholders as well, serving all of those needs better than we do today, and that they get some satisfaction in being servant leaders. I mean, I think being a servant leader is something to aspire to. If you want to be a decent human being and lead a moral life, that's something to aspire to, rather than being filthy rich. I see a reaction against wealth. I notice there's a lot of money out there, and the young people who are inheriting that money are reacting against it. The young millionaires who have inherited all this money from their parents are sometimes aghast at the methods that the money was made, and they want to change all that. So I'm heartened by some of the underlying trends that are at play here. We could be surprised. I'm hoping we will be surprised sometime in the next few years, next decade or so, to see a really big change in attitude occur. You can't predict this kind of stuff. And you can't plan it. You can't. Right. It's beyond any of us.
Right.
It's organic. It's evolutionary. It has a life of its own. And it looks terrible now,
Mm.
but I think it could change. It could turn around anytime.
You've had these opportunities where you've been in these roles of leadership, being part of teams, of understanding that you know we're all pieces of a larger puzzle, and you need to have each of those pieces in order for this to work and this to be accomplished and this to happen, and that's given you great understanding about the human condition and about collaboration and creativity. Being a major in the U.S. Air Force is definitely one of those. Tell us about that experience and how that has shaped you as well, Professor.
Oh, it was. I was stationed in Europe for 3 years. It was a great experience. Living abroad is an eye opener. Most Americans are a little parochial. They think America is the greatest country in the world. It's not. Other countries are doing a great job. The Nordic countries, the European countries, some of the Asian countries are just marvelously well developed, very sophisticated. So that changed my opinion. The one thing I would like to say, if I don't want to make sure I get this point in, I want to go back to the prospect of a democratic form of business. This country is the best situated nation in the world to do that because we invented modern democracy. And if we were to extend that ideal down to the grassroots through business corporations and grassroots of government agencies and everywhere, churches, the churches need it. I'm a Catholic. Catholics are appalled at the way the hierarchy is treating their church. But if we could extend democracy down to the grassroots, we could really change the world. America could lead the world again. And I think that's probably the best way we could do it, by example, by getting our own house in order and really making democracy work by taking it right down to the grassroots, part of everyday life.
I agree. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Professor. Absolutely. An aerospace engineer on Apollo's lunar module. I need to know about that. That had to be extraordinary. Tell us about that. Tell us about that experience.
Well, I have one particular memory that I just cherish so much. We were, I worked for Grumman Aerospace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they were building the lunar module, the vehicle that landed on the moon. And it was fascinating to struggle with the problems of what kind of a surface is the moon for landing on. We had no idea.
Right.
People thought it could be just rocks like any other surface, or they thought it could be a very light powder and maybe sink into it 20 to 30 feet, swallow up the capsule. I had no idea. Maybe there'd be big rocks and you'd hit a big rock and it would destroy the vehicle. So that was fascinating. The meetings we had with astrophysicists and astronomers and people like that, trying to understand what the surface of the moon was like. That was absolutely fascinating. And I had the responsibility for designing the nozzle, the exhaust nozzle on the descent engine, which is a nozzle is a big thing. It's about 6 feet long.
Yes.
It protrudes from the bottom of the spacecraft. And it had to be designed so it would collapse if it hit a rock. And that was one of my big responsibilities, to make sure that the nozzle, the rocket engine nozzle, was designed so it could collapse. I take great pride in that.
That is absolutely incredible. Yeah.
That's what I have.
Yeah. Don't think of nozzles the same way anymore after that. We're not just talking about the garden hose nozzles, folks. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
What do you think? And again, this book really is a page turner. It is riveting. And it really...
Well, it's kind of you to say that.
It makes people think. I mean, the research that went into this is extensive and intensive. The timing of it, did you time it for now, or had you already started this and have the germ of the idea And now it just so happens to be coinciding with the need for this type of reading material, the need for this kind of knowledge and wisdom building. Did the two things just coincide, or do you have a crystal ball that you looked at years ago that said, I'm going to time this in a way where it's going to be needed? I mean, because it's just the timing of it is so phenomenal.
Well, that's really a great question, Jim. Here's what happened. As I mentioned earlier, I was struck by the crazy behavior of Americans, and that was a tip off. I think you could see that something new was happening, and that's where I could see that we were really entering an age of consciousness. But another way to see it is that I'm older now. I'm an emeritus professor, and as I enter my maturity as a human being, I'm better able to understand what maturity is like.
Yeah.
And it helped me understand the maturity of the planet, because that's what we're facing here. The maturity of the planet, of our,
And fragility of it. Yeah.
we have to create a mature society. And my own maturity allowed me to better understand that, I think. Those are my two answers to that question. Great question.
Thank you. What do you think is the most, I mean, there's a lot going on, and, you know, a lot that can, what if somebody feels overwhelmed? There's so many pressing things happening, and they feel like they can't, it's beyond them to even make a contribution. It's beyond them to ever make a difference. It's beyond them. They don't feel they have the power or the connections to have any effect on any of it. That's not true. I mean, every single one of us has a voice, an ability, capability. Somebody watching that's just saying, I love this conversation, but what could I possibly do?
Yeah, that's the way I address that in the first chapter of.
Yeah, you do.
I point out there are two paths to consciousness, higher consciousness. One is knowledge. If you read the book or any other book on this topic and learn about the threats facing the globe and what we need to do to alleviate those threats, that's one thing you can do, learning. Increase your knowledge so you can understand it. The other path is to change yourself. And that's tough. But I think we all have to do that. We all have to find our own way through our life journey. And today, I think we're challenged to become global citizens, to understand the predicament that the planet is caught in the middle of, and to change our own thinking so that we become an embodiment of that global consciousness. So those are my suggestions about two ways to do that: knowledge and to change yourself, change your own understanding, your own values, your own beliefs.
You know, it's interesting. This topic for me, I find fascinating. I was so excited to have an opportunity to really dig in deep with it. It's interesting to me because a lot of you talk about the consciousness and operating from a higher consciousness, because I've always tried to, even since childhood, not put labels on things, but be able to sort of compartmentalize for me some of the things I've always thought and I've always experienced, and the way that I've always looked at the world, look at people, look at relationships, the commonality, the communal nature. And the number of people that I know personally that are friends that are very deeply involved in understanding and appreciating consciousness, people I've interviewed over the years on television and radio, have, and some are deep experts in it. People that I've interviewed on and come across on my years on PBS have come through with these discussions as well. They've said things that I now can understand because I can put, it's almost like putting names to the faces. They'll say, Jim, do you realize that you operate from a higher consciousness? The way you think, the way you feel, the way you operate, the way you speak, You're operating completely from a higher consciousness. You probably have been for a long time. You are very intuitive and you're a high level empath.
Mhm.
And I've had numbers of people say that without realizing each one has said it. They don't even know each other. We were just being conversations and they'll hear certain things and that's what they'll say. And I have found it really fascinating because now I can say, okay, so that's what that is. That's what that is. That's what it is. And so I'm right there with you on all of this conversation and all of these thoughts and what we need to do. Because I, even working, in an information industry, an entertainment industry, a broadcast industry, a media industry, have often said there was a time I had the television on, the radio on, I was checking email, I had one laptop on, I had another computer on, the phone was ringing, the email was coming in, I had to update social media, I had all this stuff, all this information technology and media all coming on at once. And this was probably 3 years ago. It's BC, not before Christ. The new BC is before COVID.
That's right.
So I had to, believe it or not, I had to shut all of it off. I actually had to shut everything off and hear silence, just to think and to absorb because I like to reflect a little bit. When we do something, when we say something, when we accomplish something, I'm somebody who does like to take a little bit, maybe, at least time for a cup of coffee to savor, relish, and appreciate what we just saw, what we just experienced, what we just did, what we just tasted. I really need to do that because to me, I see everything as a link. So I want to relish and savor in what it is, good, bad, and ugly, and indifferent, what it is, because I need to feel it and need to understand it and appreciate it. So I know what to do going to the next thing that we experience in life. I know some people like to go bump, 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 and the whole thing is just next, 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 next. And I understand that. And I can do that too. But I do still require a little of that. Okay, can we just we went to see, the Titanic and it sank. Can we discuss a little bit how we felt about that? What did you feel? What did you think? Let's bounce these things, the energy that we have of this communal experience. Let's bounce it off each other and learn. And maybe we'll come up with some new things, inventions, ideas, and whatever it may be. And sometimes you do feel like you're rowing a boat that's going in a totally different direction because everything is sped up and everything is, next, not even if it's next, it's not even accurate sometimes, or there's no feeling, it's devoid of feeling. It's just next, next, next. How do you feel about some of that?
Well,
That was a handful.
Yeah, that was wonderful. That leads me to the trend of mindfulness that is taking root in this country.
Emotional intelligence.
Mindfulness, emotional, all those things. I think these are profound changes. I see it as the transfer from religiosity to spirituality. Much has been made about how people are leaving churches. That's true. But they're also more interested in spirituality, which is more authentic than religiosity, because religiosity is a lot of dogma. But spirituality is very different. It's the kind of thing that you described, I think, Jim. People trying to understand their own consciousness and to get a broader sense of understanding, to find their place in the universe. And I think that's going to be a big thing in years to come, the rise of spirituality. And it cuts across religions. You can find people who take a little bit of 3 or 4 different religions in their quest for developing their own spirituality. So it would integrate, I think, a lot of the divisions in global societies. I think that's a very powerful trend, the very thing you described: personal enlightenment, personal development. And that's going to be essential to make this global consciousness a reality, I think.
Have you gone through that and the transitions and transformations and appreciation of it for yourself, I would imagine, as well through the
Oh,
years.
yeah. I like a lot of people these days. I struggle with all of this. I, I tried everything: Tai Chi, yoga, everything really. And I think there's a big change in mentality going on right now. I think, for instance, of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's become a global phenomenon. The world has been inspired uh, around, every nation has been thinking about this, and it's a different mentality. It's an example of one of the elements of consciousness that has to change. We have to learn to embrace diversity as an asset. Diverse people are not just different; they're a resource. They have knowledge and cultures that we don't have, and we can gain something by understanding and becoming close to people who are different. And so that's one of the things that I think we have to do is embrace diversity as an asset, because we're moving towards a world that is minority white. We have to accept that, and we have people from all these different races interacting in a global economy, and that's really a great thing. But we have to embrace it.
What do you think, from your perspective and all your research, is the number one most pressing issue that we really need to put our energies and our time, even if there's money we got to throw at it, whatever it is, the most pressing issue of facing all of us right now from your perspective?
It's the climate. The climate is an existential challenge, and if we were to address it head on, really address it well, it could bring the world together. It could be a common problem that the entire world works on and solves together. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. So it's going to force us to do something.
Yeah, I know. And there are places that are like the Netherlands, and those places, they're way ahead of getting prepared and switching things around, which is a great thing. Why do you love your work? Obviously, Professor, you've had so many incredible experiences, and thanks to you for your service, of course, to the country, to all of us. Very we in thinking, which I think is awesome. Obviously, you wouldn't do any of this. You at this point, with all this accomplishment, you could be, in Fort Lauderdale on a beach having a banana colada in your lawn chair.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
But it doesn't do it for you. So
No.
what are some of those continued blessings and joys in your life where you want to bring people together? You want to, give us opportunities to really think and take action and be empowered and motivated as we're doing it?
Well, I've poured about 5 years of my life into this book, and I agonized over every word, really. I've done my best to make it understandable, accessible, and interesting, and I think it is. And I think it's the biggest thing going on today, that the world is changing dramatically in our lifetimes. We are privileged, I think, to be alive at this point in history. And so I think we should embrace these ideas, understand all this, and start changing ourselves and changing the people around us and trying to change the society around us, because we could have a really much more powerful, more comfortable society, world. I think we really are heading towards a unified world. I think about 2050, I think we're going to see a unified world. Now, I know that sounds grandiose, but this is what I have spent a lifetime trying to do, to forecast big changes. In the 1970s, I remember when the first computers came out, the first PCs, and I would tell people, I think we're entering a point of social development where we will use personal computers. And people would say, what would you ever do with it? Why would I ever need a personal computer? It seemed like a crazy idea. But I could see it was happening. I thought it was likely to peak at about the year 2000.
Mhm.
So I was forecasting that in the 70s, 1970s, and that's exactly when it happened, about the year 2000, when we entered a knowledge age. We had knowledge workers, organizations called their organizations knowledge organizations. Uh, Managers did knowledge management. That turned out to be accurate. I feel roughly the same way about a unified planet. I think we're going to see a unified planet about 2050, about 30 years from now. And the beginnings, of course, are going to be the mental spiritual revolution that is likely in the next decade or so.
Mhm.
I feel about as confident in those forecasts as I did when I was forecasting the information age to enter mainstream in the year 2000. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
You heard it here first on the Jim Master Show Live, folks. Write that date down. Plan to join us because we'll have him back in 2050 to see how much progress we have made. What is it that you hope people are left with beyond knowledge, how technology is driving an age of consciousness, Professor?
Well, just to understand consciousness. I mean, it's something we don't talk about.
Right.
We take it for granted. It like air. We breathe air. We take it for granted. But consciousness is where we live our lives. Our hopes, our dreams, our fears, our spiritual life, our hates, everything. And it's invisible to us. But this is the new frontier.
Yeah.
And we have to understand a world that centers around consciousness.
Yep.
Because that's the new reality, just the way knowledge was 20 years ago.
Mm.
The idea of a knowledge age seemed silly 30 years ago. And we've been doing that, and something similar is happening right now about consciousness. It's the next logical step in evolution, and it dominates everything. All of this post-factual nonsense is just a part of it, and we've got to learn how to tame this frontier of consciousness. That's the challenge we have.
That's the challenge we have, and let's roll up our sleeves and dive in. Like you say, the book talks about robotics, automation, creative work, crisis of maturity.
I'd like to say something about the cover, if I could.
Yeah,
I love the cover.
It's fantastic.
This is a stock image of this young lady, and it just worked perfectly. I see her as a goddess, a modern goddess, and she is giving the world, to the globe, the consciousness that we need for a global a world that works. All those concepts there are concepts in the book. They're all part of global consciousness, and she's giving that to the world. And I chose a woman because I think the qualities that are needed are feminine qualities, as opposed to male qualities of aggression and that sort of thing. We need the feminine qualities of cooperation, support, love, all of those qualities. And she's young because the younger generation is going to bear the responsibility for making this world work. So that's what the cover means. I love the cover. I hope you will too.
It is fantastic. Yeah, it really, really is. You see the hope and the desire to want to make positive change. I mean, the thing you really cover the entire gamut of all the different things that we're dealing with. And it's not like you're saying at all technology should go away or social media should go away or any of these things should go away. If anything, it's let's embrace these revolutions, embrace these innovations, and make them work for all of us in an equitable, informative, entertaining way that is positive, right?
We have to tame this stuff. That's right.
Right.
Make it serve human purposes. Exactly.
Exactly. This book, where can they find it? Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the...
It's you can enter pre-orders now. It'll be released in about 2 weeks, but you can enter a pre-order now at Amazon.
Congratulations on this. Do you see more? Is there more books coming down the pike?
I've got two more coming.
You do?
if I can live that long.
Well, just come back here anytime you're down. Just
I
come
would
back to
love to.
the Jim Masters Show live, and we will entertain, inform, and inspire as we do here on the show. Professor, this was really terrific. I can't believe we chatted for an hour and 20 minutes. It didn't feel like it, right? All the guests say it just flows as if we were just chatting at a diner over coffee and grilled
Yeah.
cheese sandwiches.
Yeah. Well, you are a great interviewer, Jim. I mean, you make it so comfortable, just as you said you would. That's right. You're a good host. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Professor. I hope the show met whatever expectations that you had and that you enjoyed the time with me as much as I certainly have with you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And there is somebody, I do have a sidekick here. I don't know if you've seen previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, but there is a sidekick here who joins me, and he actually played God once. And he just wants to wish you well. George Burns is with us tonight. There he is with the cigar in tow and everything.
Oh, I love George Burns.
He said, you did good, kid. You did good.
Yeah,
He's right there with you.
He miss Gracie, though.
Yeah. He says he seconds your emotion. Everything you said, he seconds it. And if you had asked him, he would have done the forward in the book. Now, I always show that at the end because I'm a big believer in levity. Levity is a real icebreaker. Levity just equalizes and brings everybody together.
That's right.
So George Burns is in the house, and Professor, this was really an honor and a pleasure. Spread the word about the Jim Masters Show live. We would love that.
I will.
And anybody who wants to see the episode again, you can share that YouTube episode link and on the social media and all the technology. And folks can see this in perpetuity as well. So we were live tonight, but they can also see it. It's going to be saved and archived on our YouTube channel. So you have a wonderful evening. As I say to all the guests, get the circulation going and now go stretch those legs. And thanks for all the time. It was enlightening, inspiring, and very rewarding. And I just want to show you, Alessandra says she's in North Carolina. I enjoyed everything you said, Professor. I'd love to be in one of your classes.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
And she also says, thanks, Professor. Now you're part of the Jim Masters Show Lovity family. Welcome to the family.
That's right.
That's it. That's what we're all about here on the show. I kept saying when I said lovity, it was an accident. I was saying the show has a lot of light, love, levity, and I said it so fast in the summer last year, the word levity popped out. So then I kept saying it was an accident, and they said, the viewers and the guests said, Jim, don't say it was an accident. It was meant to be. You were supposed to say that, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and your guests love it. They've all taken it on.
They're all lovities now, as are the viewers. Right. Christine Clifton in North Carolina says, thanks for sharing such important topics, global concerns with us tonight. Thanks for your input and contributions. Fascinating conversation. We just all really need to care and do our part to help. Absolutely. Alessandra says, Jim, things are never an accident. I love that. I love that. Maureen, who's a nurse in Arizona, says, I didn't comment much, but I was listening intently. What an insightful conversation. Again, if you guys want the book, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, you can find it all there. Mary Bishop in Florida says, this was such an eye-opening conversation. Thank you, Professor. And Jen Barry says, thanks for spending time with us as well, William. Renee Katz in New York says, a unified world. What a beautiful thing for all of us to continue to aspire to. Thank you, Professor Halal and Jim, for the awareness and optimism. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. I'm glad you guys got so much out of it. Merlin in Ontario, Canada. It's all about we. Thank you for being here, Bill. A very insightful conversation. Sherry Larson in Kansas, USA. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Very interesting and informative as well. Kathleen in New York City. Thank you for being here with us, Professor Halal. Very interesting conversation. Really nice. Austin Field says, another great show. Thanks, gang. We appreciate all of the wonderful comments that you guys have shared with us here. Thank you, Professor, for sharing your thoughts and experiences with all of us. Linda Odell St. Augustine, Florida, USA. Really terrific. As you can see, I'm very interactive with everybody, and I believe in bringing everybody in.
Those comments are great.
Yeah, it's
Good to have an interaction with your audience. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite unique too in this format. So I'm glad, it's the way I started it. It's what I do in my professional work, and I love it. And Maureen also adds, and thank you for your service to our great country, sir. And I second that emotion as well. Good luck. Congratulations on the book, and let's stay in touch.
Right.
Hopefully, we will see each other in person some point. That would be great. And you're welcome back anytime, Professor.
Thank you, Jim. Great being here.
My pleasure. You take care now. Enjoy the rest of your evening, okay? Or I should go.
Whatever.
That's it. Take care. Be well.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Professor William Halal. Bill, Professor Emeritus at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and author of this incredible book that we were talking about. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, here it is. Beyond Knowledge, How Technology is Driving an Age of Consciousness, talking about a unified world, global ethics, planet Earth is sacred, human spirit, as well as embracing diversity, technology of consciousness, really mastery over life, faster and farther, infinite knowledge, robotics, automation, digital revolution, the new sphere, crisis of maturity, intelligent internet, creative work, government markets, and spiritual topics, and so much more. It's really raising the level of consciousness and appreciation for one another and for life and the planet and everything. Fascinating conversation with our very special guest tonight, author and professor emeritus, George Washington University, as well, if you heard us earlier, served as a major in the U.S. Air Force and an aerospace engineer on the Apollo's lunar module. The book, Beyond Knowledge, How Technology is Driving an Age of Consciousness. You can get it again at Barnes & Noble and Amazon and other places where you find books. And really, really cool to have him here live and direct from Washington, D.C. Real pleasure. Fascinating conversation. As we say on the Jim Masters Show Live, every show is something different. This show, we like to entertain and have a lot of cool entertainment as much as we have lifestyle segments, and then talk as well. Typical, I'd say, variety talk show with old school sensibilities, bringing back that lost art of conversation with a modern vibe and a modern twist of today. Thanks for joining us, gang. You're the best. Hopefully you learned, maybe whatever the case, gave you time to pause and think. Maybe it invigorated you, energized you. Again, here on our show, everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter your religion, religious views, if any. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your political views. It doesn't matter your height, weight, zip code, eye color, hair color, or how much money you have in the bank. Everybody's welcome to join us here, join the party, join the lovely family on the Jim Masters Show Live, Entertainment Lifestyle Talk Show series, where we are truly bringing back the lost art of conversation with that famous light, love, levity, and lovity. Kathleen Walker is here. Thanks, Jim. Great show. Back to work tomorrow. We will miss you. However, those archives are there. Absolutely. Maureen says, I learned so much from your shows, Jim. Thank you for bringing us such a wide variety of guests. Thank you for noticing that. That is what I aim to do. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. Alessandra says, this was so amazingly fantastic. Thank you as well. Have a great night. See you soon. Good night, all. Hugs to you as well, Kathleen. Gang, I want to let you know we have extraordinary guests tomorrow. Harlan Rector, who is a renowned, you've heard his voice everywhere. You've heard his voice on television, in movies, in film. He is a prolific and renowned voiceover artist, but he's also author of I Matter, Finding Meaning in Your Life at Any Age. He's here with us tomorrow for another fascinating conversation. Again, right here on the Jim Masters Show Live. So he's here with us. We do thank William Halal, Professor Halal, joining us, author and professor emeritus, George Washington University. And again, He is the author of Beyond Knowledge. Check that out. Tomorrow night, Harlan Rector again is with us. We thoroughly look forward to him joining us here on the show. And then I also want to let you know on Wednesday, you're not going to want to miss it. Lots of entertainment, music, and more with Matt Dusk live from Canada. He is a platinum-selling crooner and jazz vocalist. He has sold millions of albums. I actually interviewed him a few years back on PBS television here in the United States. Matt Dusk is with us live this Wednesday on the Jim Masters Show Live. We're very excited about that. That's going to be amazing. Looking forward to him joining us as well. So he is here with us on Wednesday. Again, so many guests. Next week, and we have more guests, and I'll elaborate tomorrow night for you as well. Dina Martin, daughter of Hollywood legend Dean Martin, is going to be with us next Tuesday at a special early time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. She's a brilliant singer and actress and entertainer extraordinaire. She's also a dear friend. She's going to be with us next week, and that is going to be absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. So really, really cool stuff. And that's just some of the guests. I mean, I can tell you more. You can see them actually on go to our YouTube channel, or you're on it now, but check it out. Jim Masters TV, a channel dedicated to entertaining, informing, and educating and inspiring. Really, really fascinating. And that YouTube channel, subscribe to it if you haven't. Click the notification bell so you never miss anything. And you can see on our YouTube channel some of the upcoming guests, like Hollywood film director, screenwriter, and producer, renowned Bruce Reisman. He's worked on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, T.J. Hooker. I mean, you name the movie and the TV show, he has worked on it. He's a prolific Hollywood film director, screenwriter, and producer. He's going to be joining us. Kimberly Faye Greenberg, actress and Broadway experts, coming up on the Jim Masters Show Live, which is going to be fantastic. We're looking forward to her being with us as well. She's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And R.A. Rivas is going to be with us as well, author of The Dark Times Saga, The Black Forest. He's amazing. A fascinating conversation coming up with R.A. Rivas here on the show as well. And as we always say, gang, when we wrap up, we do say, don't forget to smile. More comments coming in. Jim, thanks for this fascinating and insightful conversation. Thank you, Christine. And of course, don't forget to smile, Christine, and everybody watching. We always say that at the end of the show. Thanks for this fascinating and insightful conversation. You're very welcome. And that was with Professor Halal tonight. Fantastic show all together. Good night, all. Till next time. Tonight gets a global levity. I love that. Thank you very much, Christine. And speaking of levity, don't forget to share the levity, gang. We always say that. Really important to share we talked a lot about that tonight. Seems like Professor Halal is on that same page that we've been talking about here in terms of that. Another wonderful guest. Good night, everyone. Have a great night. You're very welcome as well. Mary Bishop in Florida. Fun show tonight, Jen Barry says. Maureen agrees with it all. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So share that levity we're talking about. And also the ocean. The ocean's been a little angry lately here, but it's calming down. It's calming down. Summer still continues, and Labor Day's coming up. And you know me, one of my Zen places is the ocean, swimming, surfing, boogie boarding. I'm very conscious about appreciating the ocean. I love it. You got to drag me out of it. I love it so much. And of course, my work in television, film, stage, radio, all of it, on air, on camera, behind the scenes. I love my work and what I do. So, gang, thank you for being with us in this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. Yeah, that's the other part too. Thanks for being with us. A couple more quick comments here. I so enjoy being with everyone in Levity Hall. Sending tight hugs to everyone. Hugs are my favorite, in case you couldn't tell. Yeah, I know you do love them. Right back at you. Maureen in wonderful Arizona in the southwestern part of the United States of America. Gang, you're the best. Thanks for being with us. We love you all. And thanks for joining us in this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. We'll see you again soon, okay? Have a good night.